r/AskReddit. What's your never again story? Once I made two terrible food decisions in a single day. This was years ago when I was in my middle 20s. I woke up hungry and went to the fridge to grab some leftover Taco Bell. But I'd accidentally forgotten it in the car overnight. Still, I thought if I microwaved it, it'll be fine. So I ate a Taco Bell chicken quesadilla that had been sitting out for over 20 hours. Just as I was finishing it up, my buddy called and begged me to join him on a just friends hang session with this girl he was trying to date. They wanted to go to this Asian seafood place I'd always seen driving by, but never been to. So we go, and they have a kind of mini seafood super platter that's meant to feed the whole table. Like a super sampler. We get that. It's supposed to feed 6, but we finish it off as a party of 4. That afternoon, it began. My friend called and asked if I was feeling bad from the seafood. And I told him yeah. But it was probably something from earlier in the day for me. He said, yeah, we are feeling a little queasy too. But we've got tickets tonight, so we are just gonna drink water and go for it. I got a date, woo. I wished him luck and went back to Fallout 3. By midnight I thought I was going to turn inside out. It was so bad. I would have called 911 if my phone had been in the bathroom with me. But it was on my nightstand, and I physically could not get to it. I could hear it ringing occasionally. So I hoped that whoever was trying to call would stop by and take me to the hospital. It was the longest night of my life. But by early afternoon the next day, I was coming around. I tried to stay hydrated by letting shower water run into my mouth during the event. The toilet was right next to the tub and I could sit and hang my head into the tub at the same time under the shower head. So I just ran the shower on my head, crapped my guts out the back, and vomited my soul out the front. Turns out the calls late at night were my buddy calling to come pick them up because they had both had accidents at the concert. On their first date, they are married now. This was before Uber or Lyft in case anyone is wondering. They finally managed to get his uncle to get them. Never again. TLDR. Double ultra food poisoning. While friends hit themselves on their first date. Edit. Cleaned up the grammar and syntax somewhat. I've always been bad about sloppy draft style writing. But I know it can bother people sometimes. Sounds like the time the only things in my kitchen were tuna and vodka. If you're ever in that situation, pick one. You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a vodka. Edit. /u/meteorite12 has confirmed my suspicions. You definitely cannot tune a vodka. 103 temperature. Sicker than a dog from the flu and constipated. I was miserable. I took 4 fiber pills in the morning and had hallucination fits for the next 4-5 hours. Desperately trying to get some sleep. I took an Ambien sleeping pill, extra strength. Woke up 9 hours later not constipated anymore and having to do a load of laundry. Underappreciated pun. Edit. Fixed format. I've told this story before, and it's probably not the type of story you were expecting. But it fits the question, so here you go. Okay, so this requires a bit of backstory. When my wife and I first got together we lived in a tiny apartment and shared a twin bed. This situation continued even after she got pregnant. This of course substantially reduced my sleeping area. We slept in a spooning position. One night, when she was about 7 months pregnant, I awoke in the middle of the night and tried to readjust the blanket to recover myself. It often would end up bunched up between us. So I reached down to find it and pull it back up. There was some resistance, but I assumed that she had her foot on it or something. So I pulled harder and kept pulling, assuming it would come free any second now. At this point my wife turned her head around and angrily asked what the duck I was doing. Turned out that I was not pulling the blanket. I had grabbed the back of her underwear and was forcefully pulling them up her ass crack. I broke out laughing and couldn't stop for quite a while. She was substantially less amused, and even less so after my explanation. So the mistake I will never make again is, TLDR, never tell an angry, rudely awoken pregnant woman that you mistook her underwear for a blanket. Especially if you're laughing hysterically at the time. Edit. My wife assures me that the several times she's elbowed me in the throat in her sleep over the last 8 years are in no way related to this event. Edit 2. Just told my wife her underwear had over 12k karma. Everyone at work is now wondering what the duck I'm laughing at. Made my day. Rode an Amtrak train from New Orleans to Washington DC. I thought I was a prodigy by choosing coach seating over a sleeper car, or flying as I was saving some money by doing so. Jump forward to 25 hours in the same seat. Dude next to me pulling a German EVS Poland invasion of the armrest. Baby screaming all night in the back of the car and I couldn't sleep. The toilet situation had deteriorated on board to the point where I would use elbows and my boots to open and close the door and flush the toilet as my fellow riders were baffled by the concept of flushing and utilizing a trash bin for paper towels. I've been awake 25 hours by this point and it's 3:45 am. If I ever do this, it's gonna be in a sleeper car. Duck the savings. Murder on the Orient Express had the right idea. Edit. Holy crap, my inbox has been blowing up all day today. Lol. I'm glad there are other people who shared this type of experience. Edit 2. Might need to make a post myself about travel horror stories. Jesus guys. Took an Amtrak train from Montana to ND. On trip that was supposed to take 12 hours, ended up taking 28 ducking hours due to mostly winter related delays. And another 4 hours of which was a surprise stop and search by heavily armed border patrol. It reached nightmare proportions when the food and beverage car ran out of everything. No food, no drinks. This was about 15 hours in. First time I felt the pains of true hunger in my life. It was a very rural / scenic route, Highline, and included only one stop, which happened to be the one place they moved quickly. 15 minutes at 3 in the morning. The lone vending machine at that podunk station was bum rushed and empty before we even got within 5 feet of it. It was a specific kind of heel. Even after the trip out ended, the nightmare didn't. Amtrak cancelled the return voyage due to weather for 7 days, which in turn caused the buses to sell out for the entire week. And every rental car in the region was taken. After desperately searching for 2 days, we found one luxury car available to go out west from the airport at $400 a day. We had to get back to work and had no choice. The car was rear wheel drive and we spent the next 12 hours white knuckle drifting all over the highway because Amtrak hung a full train of people out to dry. The irony was the whole reason we took the train, to avoid driving in winter conditions. Only our cars were far better equipped than the sports car we got shafted with. Never again. I had a very similar experience on the coast Starlight going from Riverside, CA to Seattle, wire in January of 2008. My first train was delayed by a frozen switch and a Cajun Pass. This was foreshadowing of things to come. My second train pulled out of LA on time and all the area commuters made it to their stops in good order. It was a pretty good start to the trip, making our way north and seeing all of this beautiful Californian countryside. But then we got into the Central Valley and our train started having to pull over on sidings to let freight pass. Freight companies own the rails, so Amtrak has to give them the right of way. My train became progressively delayed as we neared Oakland. Already I was getting to know the people in my car. There was Mike, the former Marine, and his 8-year-old daughter. There was the kid with the guitar and the cute girl he's crushing on. There was my seatmate / future train wife whose name I cannot remember. There was the old woman in front of us. We all got along okay at first. In Oakland we picked up a woman and her 2 young children, an infant and a toddler. This woman added a level of toxicity to the car that was immediate and unmissable. Every misstep that young Isabel took was met with harsh reprimand and curse words. We continued north. In the night Isabel started crying and the car was okay with it. Then the woman started cussing again and really waking people up. Everyone was too tired to give a duck and told her to stop yelling at her kids and let them, you know, be kids. At that point Isabel's brother started crying and my train wife offered to hold him. Train wife gets the kid back to sleep and she nodded off again too. Strange baby in her arms. The mom fell back asleep but Isabel didn't. So this terror of a 2-year-old sitting in front of me decided it was time to be friends with me. I wanted to go back to sleep, but I really didn't want her mom to wake back up and start verbally abusing her again. Then followed many tired hours of playing peekaboo and hey, here's this random item I have. Is it entertaining? In the morning we stopped in Klamath Falls. Or, this was the last smoke break the train would get before making a trip over another set of mountains. The mom was mortified that Isabel wouldn't leave me alone. She seemed to find her children a supreme annoyance and didn't want to wish the same on anyone else. Isabel was a terror, but she genuinely wanted interaction with other people, and so me and train wife ended up with Isabel scrunched between us as we pored over all of her books for the whole next day. The train headed north and we started hitting Frozen Switch after Frozen Switch in the mountains. The train was almost delayed a full 12 hours before evening fell. Guitar dude got drunk and annoying. He started getting jealous when his cute seatmate talked to anyone else or wouldn't give him attention. He ended up flipping out on the whole car, accusing us of not taking him seriously and making him look stupid in front of the cute girl. I was wondering how serious guitar guy could be, considering he'd known the girl for maybe half a day at that point. Then I looked at myself and my seatmate and realized that we'd started a whole family in that amount of time. When Izzy had to go to the bathroom I'd hold the baby and train wife would take her. The real mother was pretty much ignored by everyone. Mike the Marine tried to reason with Guitar Kid after his freak out, but to no avail. After the confrontations with the mother and Guitar Guy, Mike withdrew from all further social interaction with the car, just hoping to get his daughter through the trip. At some point the staff made the wise call of stopping booze sales. Nobody had had a cigarette in almost 12 hours. People were tired, smelly and becoming irritable. As darkness fell and some forbidding cascades snowscape the staff retreated from public sight entirely. Izzy and her brother dozed next to me and train wife and we must have talked about everything there was to talk about together. After the longest stop at a Frozen Switch the whole train gave a sigh of relief and we moved towards Salem. After only an hour it was announced that, by law, the crew of the train had to switch out as they'd now been on the job too long. So we stopped and waited for the new crew. Irritability increased. Still no cigarette stops for over 12 hours. Some people thought about walking to the highway a few miles distant and asking for help. The air was uncirculated and stale inside the car. We all smelled bad. A certain mutiny neared, and as nobody had seen an Amtrak staff member it was decided that we would open the windows on the train car doors and smoke out of those. If one leaned out the window and took in the length of the train as it curved away in either direction you could see lit cigarettes hanging from the same windows in every car. After some hours we started moving again. I wish I could accurately remember how many hours we were stopped or behind schedule but I'm certain. At this point we were over half a day behind schedule. At around 11 PM, Salem is where Isabel, her brother and mom got off. Train wife and I reluctantly handed back our little charges to their uncertain future. Sleepy little Isabel gave me a hug and the old lady in our car confronted the mom on how she treated her children and how she let two strangers basically nanny them for 24 hours. The mom cussed out the old lady and the moment she stepped off the train CPS was called. We all told the old lady she was awesome for standing up for the kids and to the mom. We went north. In Portland we were informed that we would be put onto buses that would either bring us to Olympia or Seattle and would arrive at 4 or 5 in the morning. The area of Seattle where I'd be dropped off in is not a good place to be at that time of day. Luckily, I had a friend staying with family in Olympia and train wife was taking the same bus. We slept almost the whole bus ride there, leaning on each other. We hugged goodbye at the Olympia station and that was the end of our strange and brief train family. We never saw each other or spoke again. TL, Doctor, long distance Amtrak. Never again. I was the designated driver for my son's 21st birthday. He was out with dad and about 10 of his close friends. So I was pretty busy driving back and forth schlepping them all home. Finally, I get the call from dad that it's time. And our son needs to go home. My son is in the back seat with one of his friends when I feel a hand come from behind and grope my boob. Then quickly moves down to my inner thigh. My son then says, "What do I need to do to get me some of that?" We don't talk about that night. Edit/update. I'm humbled by the gold. Most generous stranger. Thank you. Easiest to respond to questions/hate here as my inbox has imploded. Most of you were kind in your comments and found it humorous. Laughter was my goal in sharing. No, it wasn't the friend. As he was sitting near the door and my son had to lean forward from the backseat. While I used the phrase blackout drunk, I believe it could have even crossed into alcohol psychosis or hallucinations. No, I do not have a medical background. Just my thoughts, based on his complete disconnect from reality. Thank you to those that were concerned about alcohol poisoning. Yes. After the car ride home, I also had this concern. Dad and I kept a close watch on him while he slept it off. This happened 8 years ago. Yes. Men find me attractive. I believe my shape/size reminded him of his GF. As for the hate, my son is not a XL predator. Period. He was raised knowing how to treat a woman. There was no need to counsel him. I know my son. And his personality is absolutely not that forward or aggressive. Drunk or sober, I believe he mistook me for his girlfriend. And this was an example of the banter they shared. Thank you to the fellow redditors that shared their drunken stories. I have no doubt that their night of drunkenness in no way is a reflection of who they are. Holy oh duck, that is an ugly one. Sounds like some skookum talk.